What's up? Welcome back into the award-winning Orange Zone podcast. A reminder, you can find every episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen. You can also watch every episode on our Orange Zone YouTube page. What's up if you are watching from the Sky Cam? I'm Tommy Sladek. We have Samantha Croston. We have Rachel Culver on the producer mic. New episodes released every Wednesday or sometimes Tuesday night. We invite you to like, comment, subscribe. Also be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, as we get pretty heavy into that as we head into the fall season. We're continuing our position group preview. Sam's back at the desk, and also camp is officially underway. What's up, Sammy C?
What's up? Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I took a little breaksy from this building.
Hiatus. Siesta.
Hiatus. For no reason. No one think anything is wrong or be spreading any rumors. I just wanted to hang out and chill and go to the beach. And a few people have asked me if I have gotten a spray tan, and I just wanted to dispel those rumors because they're just not true.
So we're getting ahead of that right now.
Let's just get ahead of it.
You've had some time with the big man upstairs, the sun.
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Mr. Sun. Yeah. I had a great time. Spent some time on the beach, spent some time with family and friends. But I'm excited now. It's weird being in this profession. It's like August, you still think summer. But in a way, you're like, the summer's sort of over because football's here. Good reason for it to end early.
I was going to say, summer on the calendar is not until until September 21st, but the second football starts, that creates a new season. That's life in America. It really is.
Oh,
Rach, how we doing? We're doing linebackers today.
Yeah, we are doing linebackers today. Unlike the past episodes where we were talking about some other positions, I don't have any dreams to be a linebacker, but excited to talk about them.
Yeah, and there's some big names here and some big names that stuck around to be a part of this new Fran Brown era. And before we even get into that, so if you've been listening or watching this summer, we're getting into each position group. We're hitting on the names that we expect to be big, some of the names we think are going to be up-and-comers. But also we just try to really get a feel for a position and let people know that there's going to be a name or two that maybe we don't dive into that ends up being a big part of the story this season. And that's what's special about the game of football. But before we even get into the players, let's talk about this new coach. We got Robert Wright, co-DC linebacker coach in his first year. And this is what you call an up-and-comer.
Mm-hmm.
Wright was named to the American Football Coaches Association's 35 under 35 winner for 2024. Comes over from Buffalo after one season. And in his one season with the Bulls, UB was solid. They ranked in the top 25 nationally in numerous defensive categories: pass defense, defensive touchdowns, and third down defense. And the quote from Fran Brown I thought caught my eye.
Yeah?
You want to read it?
Sure.
Go for it.
It says, Robert Wright is up and coming and really, really intelligent. He's the co-DC here because he's done a good job at Buffalo and Texas A&M. Everyone speaks really highly of him. He understands the back end, he understands the front end, and he can visualize things and see problems before they even happen. I'm excited to work with him, and so are our players and our staff. I'm assuming that the same thing that caught your eye is what's catching my eye. I like the idea that he can see problems before they even happen. To me, Coach Wright, it's a no BS sort of vibe. Definitely feels like an X's and an O's guy to a certain extent. Really knows the game of football. Buys completely into Fran Brown and everything that he's trying to do. I think he's a good addition.
And like most of these dudes, cool guy. Just straight up, he's a cool dude. Enjoyed speaking with him the few times we've gotten to, and can't wait to do that more. But looking at his other stops now, Fran, for a good amount of these people, he's had a direct relationship with. Mm-hmm. Rob Wright's not one of them, but his defensive coordinator very much has, and that was with Elijah Robinson, and he's connected with him in the past. So Rob's been all over. Dude's been at Duke, Iowa State, Illinois, Miami, 2 seasons at A&M as a grad assistant, and so he's been around big programs literally since he graduated. He was on the Miami's roster in 2011, so he's been around big programs. He's been around success.
He's been around many programs, which is something that sticks out to me, right? I feel like you have to think this dude is learning 1 or 2 lessons just from every single stop that he's been at. You mentioned it, but the fact that he didn't have a direct relationship with Fran Brown, which many of the coaches, many of the players do, maybe that makes it mean a little bit more. Mm-hmm. He went off of the recommendation from Elijah Robinson, who already knew Wright. Yes, there was a connection there, but it wasn't direct. It shows me 2 things. Number one, that Fran Brown really trusts Elijah Robinson and the people who he knows in his circle. But two, that he would take a risk on somebody if they had the right credentials and they got a good recommendation. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do here.
And as for the players, you ready for the players?
Let's get into
Let's do it. Because there's two big ones right off the top, and we got to start with one of the leaders on this team for a few years now. If you've been around this program, you know the name. It's Marlowe Wax. We got to start with Marlowe. We got to go with number 2. One of our favorites in terms of interviews and one of our favorites in terms of what he's able to bring on the field, not just on defense, but on special teams. He's a pro. He's going to be a pro, and I can't wait to see it, but I'm happy he's in orange for another year.
He's a fan favorite. He's a player favorite, and I know we'll get into all of the things he's able to do on the field. But something that I was thinking about recently, keep in mind, and I'm sure you know this, I saw it today in one of the post-practice press conferences, that the entire team for the duration of this football camp has moved into dorms. They're all living together. It's kind of old school. Coach Brown took away their keys, so they had to find other ways and different ways to transport. It's the whole idea of it is family and bonding. The reason why I bring that up is because I think that Marlowe Wax is the kind of person who completely buys into that sort of process. He's the exact kind of guy who you'd want to have around for that sort of bonding experience. I envision him as the guy who is talking to younger guys on the bus, is walking with guys back to the dorm, taking guys under his wing, which he mentioned. We know that he's a captain. He is taking that leadership role seriously. And to him, I think the little things make the big things. You need a guy like that around, and he's that guy.
Big time. And yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because the last time we were on here, Ashley and I weren't able to really dive into camp.
Yeah, did you guys talk about that or no?
Camp hadn't started yet, and
Okay.
we found out about that for sure on Wednesday. We taped on Tuesday, so we really haven't addressed that. But I am a huge fan of them staying in the dorms for the duration of camp, and it creates this equal balance. And I got into it on TV last week where I said, you know, we're in the NIL era, and the true freshman walk-on is having a different college experience than the senior leader on the team, right? Whether it's what they're driving, if they're driving anything. One's probably taking the bus, one's in his own very nice car, one's in a nice apartment, the other's in a dorm. This really does put them all on the same playing field to be like, hey, man, we're one big family. And I think it's a great thing to start it off like that. But camp being here, it feels good. It just feels good.
It does. And it feels like consistent is a word that comes to mind for me. And a part of that is because of this environment that they've created. Was reading in an article, this was obviously Coach Brown's idea, but that many of the captains and leaders on the team are the ones who really pushed it forward.
Fidel Diggs did, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
And really said, hey, this is what we're wanting to do. You mentioned it, but I do. I think that differences are sometimes the kind of thing that can bring people closer together. It's also the kind of thing that can sometimes tear a team apart. This is sort of sending a message from the top down. We're all on the same playing field here. We all need to respect one another. And no matter how much you're playing, no matter how much on-field time you get, every single person's role here matters. That's important on a team as large as a football team, to know that you have value and you're worth something.
And they really seem to be letting and giving a lot of respect and wiggle room to the leaders on this team. Like Ashley sent us some notes. So she's over with Carson, our intern right now, grabbing practice and grabbing interviews. That's why she couldn't be here for this episode. But she wrote down, and I said, what have been your main takeaways from camp that you would have shared if you were on here? And she said that Elijah Robinson has let Fidel, JB, Justin Barron, and Marlowe kind of design the defensive playbook. And I think that is so, like, the respect I think he has for those guys goes a long way. And Marlowe even talked about how much he's enjoying working with who they call Coach E and Elijah Robinson. He said a big part really is that he grew up in an environment that a lot of us can really relate to. Marlowe being from Baltimore, Elijah being from Camden. So that was great to see. Let's bring Rachel in, though. Rach, you got numbers here for us when it comes to Marlowe. What sticks out to you, and why has he had the success he's had?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like, this guy, the easiest way to sum him up is heart and soul of the defense here at Syracuse, and he's made it that way over a really good career here. In 2023, last year, played all 13 games, had 110 tackles, 11 and a half tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 4 sacks, an interception, 4 forced fumbles, 4 quarterback hurries, and 2 pass breakups. This guy's just everywhere.
That's a stat stuffer.
If he like on the field, he is everywhere. He comes out of nowhere, and he's someone that like really hypes up not only this defensive, not only this linebacker group, but the entire defense. And just having a guy like that I think a lot of us watch football for the excitement on offense, but boy, when you get excited on defense, I think it's a whole different kind of excitement. And I think that's what makes and is going to make this season so special, because the entire everyone we've heard from on defense is so excited about the schemes that they're coming up with and what they're going to do on the field this year.
I mean, my favorite play that I've ever seen in the Dome was the interception, pick six, Caleb Okechukwu.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people would actually say that they agree with that. Defense is everything, man. There's a reason why they say defense wins championships. And one thing that I had noticed from watching some of the interviews is that Wax did mention that the defensive schemes this year are also more complex. What that means is, again, they have to be more vocal. They need to be communicating more. You start to see why this chemistry is so important in between everybody on this team, because it actually contributes to the on-field performance. The other thing I wanted to bring up, just in thinking about him, I watched his I'm Back video, and in that, he is very honest about some of the struggles.
For a little context here, you want to explain the I'm Backs that, like, it's
Go
on
ahead.
it's on YouTube. It's SU Athletics has been like really for some of those key players that chose to come back. So that's the CUSE Athletics, like their video and creative team made these long form, I guess, mini documentaries, interviews.
Yeah,
but that's what Sam's checking out or talking about. So go check them out. They're awesome.
And
Sorry to cut you off, but just wanted to squeeze that in there.
I appreciate the context and perspective. Not to mention it.
Season P's, baby.
Season P's. To say it's well shot would be the understatement of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It is really like the production value is very high on these videos. But so is the content. You know, he talks a lot about the fact that when he was, believe he said 7 turning 8, his father passed away. And a lot of the things that he does is for his mother and his grandmother. That's his motivation. That's the place he's coming from. He's been through a lot. He's overcome a lot. And I love the fact that with him, it always feels like he's playing for something bigger than himself. It's either he wants to provide for his family, he wants to be a good teammate, he wants to be a good leader to the younger guys on the team. It's just the kind of player who you root for in every sense of the word. And I think that his attitude is going to be a big part of the success that this team has this season.
Named to the ACC football preseason team alongside Rondé Gadsden II. So not too much surprise there. And it's just such an interesting part of his background is that he was a running back coming out of the Baltimore area. So he and Sean Tucker were kind of vying and battling for a spot on this team. And then it was Marlowe, I believe, that pushed to be on defense. And the offensive coaches were like, we need him. It shows how much of an athlete he is. And I think it just makes perfect sense to find out that he is a psychology major. I think for someone that's the leader on the defense and that needs to be thinking about so many things at once, that adds up to me. That feels very Marlowe.
100%. He's an emotionally intelligent guy. You can tell that in every single press conference or any time that you speak to him. He also is on the Mob podcast. I mean, he's a guy who can talk. He's a chatter. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is a very interesting position group in general because, right, you have the older veteran guys on this team who have played a lot of ball together. You also have some newer guys. And I think that mix is nice just to see how all that chemistry is going to develop. The only thing I feel like he's really honing in on and trying to make better at this point is his leadership role. And I loved what he said in this one conference where he said, it needs to start with me. Everything needs to start with me, whether it's the little things, whether it's taking notes, whether it's my on-field performance, getting 1% better every day. Like, people are going to take their cues from me. The fact that he takes that role seriously, what else could you ask for in a captain?
I think my favorite part of this entire experience with kind of camp going on and starting is kind of hearing from all of these players that have so bought into Fran Brown. And we've heard Fran Brown talk so much since he's come in and, like, kind of lay out his idea and goals and perspective on what he wants this team to be. But just to see, literally every player fits so perfectly into that puzzle with the things that they say in front of a camera and how they act off of it. Like, I think it's really special.
Me too. And Derek McDonald, let's keep it moving. Let's talk about, who will be Marlowe's right-hand man there at that linebacker position. That's this redshirt junior. He's a big dude. He's 6'4", he's 230, Atlanta, Georgia native, and he has really just become such a pivotal part of this defense. He's hard to miss. Broadcast and digital journalism major, shout out. That's what's up. Love it, Derek. And Rachel, what sticks out to you about his numbers?
Yeah, so he's at kind of his right-hand man, right? So he's I believe he finished third in total tackles last year and fifth in sacks. So he's another guy that's all over the field. He played all 13 games with 67 tackles, 4.6 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries, fumble recovery, and pass breakups. So he's another guy that I think I see him kind of coming into his own a little bit more this year. There's we know what to expect from Marlowe, but I think that he will kind of has the potential to kind of sneak up on a lot of people and actually become a really big name that we start to see a lot of, and kind of almost in the same breath as Marlowe, more so, if that makes sense.
Coming into his own. That girl's all right.
Yeah, she ain't bad.
I do. I think he might be one of the most highly anticipated watches of the entire season. He didn't get a ton of press last year despite having a pretty good season. They mentioned, and he mentioned, that he's playing more off the ball than he's used to, but he trusts that all of his coaches are putting him in a position to succeed. Again, that's a word we talk about a lot, but trust. It's something that keeps coming up a lot. There's potentially defensive schemes that are more complex. People are playing in positions or in roles that they're not necessarily used to playing. They're trying new and different things, but the fact that everybody buys into that is the reason why it works. I like the fact that when you think about McDonald, he says that he loves Fran's championship mentality. He said they thought they were working hard before that, but he, as well as many others, can see the difference in the pre-Fran Brown era versus the post-Fran Brown era. Everybody's working just a little bit harder, maybe a lot harder, in the drills, in between drills. And I think that McDonald, we mentioned it a few times, but right-hand man is the best way to describe it. I think this is someone who Wax trusts, and I think it's someone who McDonald looks up to Wax as well. It's kind of like a yin and yang situation there.
And the way the defensive formation is set up, he has to take a leadership role, and Fran's talked about him in that light between JB and Marlowe and Derek, but because of where Marlowe and Derek are positioned on the field, they're going to be doing a lot of talking, and a big part of how we see this defense succeed will end up on how those two handle these moments. So really excited to see them. And as for the other names, we're going to be sliding in there. Those really are our big two. But let's go through some of the names and we'll say some things that stick out. You have James Hurd, West Virginia transfer, redshirt freshman, Camden, New Jersey native, shocker. So that's a big one. He had offers from all over the place. Looking forward to seeing what he's able to bring. You also have David Omopariola, who redshirt freshman. He's, again, listed as a linebacker, but he lined up at the edge in the spring game. So we'll see what they have in store for him. Anwar Sparrow, who is Syracuse fans are used to seeing his name. He's been here for a few years. So looking forward to seeing what he does. You also have, who else is on here that sticks out? Not even just sticks out, but just names to say. Caden Brown, Ashley's gotten a chance to speak with his dad a good amount. He played for Syracuse in the 80s. So there's a long list here. Fatim Diggs, freshman, younger brother of Fadil, another Camden guy. It's a big room. It's two names that stick out right now, but it's a big room where I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's some names that in December you guys are talking and you're like, wow, boy, did this guy come out and show off this season.
100%. I mean, just in looking down this list, there's really something you could say about any of these guys. James Hurd, yes, the Camden, New Jersey thing, it is not a shocker. Again, he's one of several of these new players who shares a hometown with Coach Brown. You mentioned it. That also includes Fadil and Fatim Diggs. I think that when I think about Hurd, one of the 19 portal additions that the Orange added, I appreciated what his former coach said about him. And here's a quote. He was called West Virginia's most natural pass rusher. The former DC there was Jordan Leslie. He said on James Hurd, he's exactly what we thought he was. He's one of our best natural pass rushers, just has a knack. A lot savvier than you think he would be in his early career in coverage. He had a pick today on a tip ball and really just off reaction. He's going to be a really, really good player for us. He is one of the additions, one of the newbies that I'm actually most excited about. I think that when you look at how deep and how many names and how many people could be involved in this, a guy like Hurd makes me think that this linebacking core and beyond has the potential to be one of the best groups in the entire country.
Wow. I like that. Rachel, how about you? What's going on? What's out of everything, what do you want to talk about? What do you think people are interested in with this linebacker room? I do like that Omar Sparrow that he didn't start in any game last year, but he played in every game.
Yeah, that's
so
huge.
that was like it was also a knock on wood, shout out Marlowe and Derek for staying healthy, right? But it's like, here's another guy that can contribute and come in.
Yes, that is something that I actually think about a lot. That I italicized that exact thing that you just said, because those guys that didn't start in any game but appeared in every game player is so dangerous to me, because that's the kind of person who is making the most of every single opportunity that they get. You need a few of those on every team. When this guy gets playing time, or people in these positions get playing time, they're very appreciative of it. They don't take anything for granted. And even if you are seeing a guy like him getting a higher role this year or getting more playing time, always is going to have that chip on his shoulder, because he came a long way just to get to that spot. It took a battle that maybe some other people didn't have to go to or go through to really get that high level playing time. So if he does end up getting some more playing time, I think he's the kind of guy who's always grateful, always appreciative, and never rests, never relax in a role where he's getting more playing time, because he hasn't always had it.
That's interesting.
I've been that girl.
Yeah.
I've been in that role before, where you're just desperate.
Just give me a shot.
You're just so hungry for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a totally different kind of mentality and mindset than someone who has started for many years. I really do.
I love that. And another guy on here that we got to shout out is we got the local kid, the hometown hero, Josh Kubala. Cicero North Syracuse High School, redshirt sophomore, appeared in 12 games on special teams, recorded a tackle against Virginia Tech, arrived as a walk-on, and then he received a scholarship with the university's ROTC program. So Josh, it just seems like Josh is the man, so just got to give it a shout-out, and we love the local guys.
Was she just cheering CNS, or did I hallucinate that?
She was, and that's a Union Springs grad for my Central New York native. So I'm
No one's
like,
gonna
if
know
we could
that.
let everyone in the Finger Lakes know what Rachel just did, yeah, she did that. But you know what? Rachel is Section 4. These guys are Section 3, so maybe that's allowed.
They're a big school. I'm a school that nobody even knows the name of, so it doesn't really matter.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's get into some of Ashley's other main takeaways, and then we can wrap things up as we continue moving on. So here's what she's got, and I'm just gonna kind of read it verbatim because this is what's on her mind. My main takeaways right now would be, 1, the insane tight end room depth. And that's something that she dove into in a story last week, where not only do you have Aronde Gadsden II, but you have Jamie Tremble, who's coming in as a true freshman, who he says has a chance to be better than him, should it all work out. Dan Villari's in there. Max Mang. It's the room has so much going on. And so I'm excited to see what that tight end room is able to do. David Clement as well. Wide receivers are deeper than last year. Umari Hatcher looks really good. And Fran Brown has been even higher on Jackson Meeks. And he's fully recovered from a spring injury. He came over from Georgia. Backup QB battle is interesting. Jakari Williams, true freshman, looks really good, as does Michael Johnson. And I don't think that number 2 spot is going to be Carlos Del Rio Wilson, but what do I know? Again, quote right from her. So we have not just Jeff Nixon's son, Will, at running back, but we also have Michael Johnson's son coming in at the quarterback position. So very cool seeing 2 coaches with 2 kids on the team. Again, she had Robinson, Lev Fadil, JB, and Marlowe design the defensive playbook. And then Meek said yesterday they're pretty much all the way there with the offensive playbook. So that's exciting to see that they're at that point. You also have Alabama transfer defensive end Braylon Ingram from last year done for good, tore his ACL. Heartbreaker to hear that. They're going to be talking to Notre Dame transfer defensive back Clarence Lewis today, and that's someone that Fran Brown has been super high on. That sounds like he's going to be making an immediate impact in a secondary, which is really one of our last two positions because we have special teams and defensive backs these
Isn't
next
that
2
nuts?
weeks. It really is.
How about it? The thing that sticks out to me on that list, I love me a good backup QB battle. I love that she says that it's not set yet. That's how you get the best competition out of these players, is when you know that it's so close. And I will say, one thing that I have noticed that Fran Brown has discussed is I really believe across many of his position groups, I think that he has a pretty good balance as far as the actual snap count, per day and per practice. I think he gets a lot of backups in there at a lot of different groups where he says, we focus on depth. We're working on building our depth. I appreciate the balance he has between thinking about the right now and also thinking about the future. I think in his mind, knowing the way that his brain works from what we've covered so far, the wheels are always turning. And I don't know, the way that he was saying it in the press conference, it made it feel like he also understands that it's important to make sure everyone is getting some reps in there, is feeling important. And I think that he shows that through kind of his everyday, his style in doing that and in running practice.
And Kyle McCord, and we've seen it on video, he is really trying to become a more balanced quarterback, not just your traditional pocket passer. He wants to be able to run more effective, and it's something that they're working with him on. It's something he's hungry to do, so that's exciting. Would love to see that.
Very exciting. This is sort of a little bit back to what the focus of this episode was.
Sure.
But this guy, I want you to just say his last name one more time so I can make sure I have it right, because I had something I wanted to say about him before we wrapped up.
I'm pretty sure it's David Omopariola.
David Omopariola.
Yeah.
All right. We'll circle back around
I grew
to
up
it.
with an Omopariola, and that's how they say
Really?
it. So you never know.
Really?
But you never know. Yeah, people say different last names differently all the time. So we're going to find out. We'll find out from David for sure this week how he pronounces his last name.
I'm more so saying really because I'm surprised that you grew up with an Omopariola. Like, how many of those could there possibly be? Anyway.
Could be a lot, yeah.
The one thing I wanted to point out about him is that Rachel had written this down, that he was one of the best high school wrestlers in Maryland. The reason why I think that's interesting, just in case he ends up getting some more playing time or whatnot, I just want to make sure I had said this. I find that people who are wrestling, that is very transferable, the skills that you get on the mat, to other sports. To me, that's the kind of dude who's an all-around versatile athlete. Technique-wise, not too many things that are similar. However, you know that when you're pulling a wrestler into any other sport, you're getting a kid that's very tough, that's very resilient, and is mentally strong. And I think that's the kind of kid that Fran Brown is looking for. Wrote it down, but some of the most incredible men on the football field, such as former Falcons
Did our boss
wide
put
receiver.
you up to this?
Nope,
Did our
nope.
wrestling-loving boss put you
But
up
I
to this?
knew
No?
that Sean would like it. Just a couple of them. Former
Yeah.
Falcons wide receiver Roddy White, former Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis. They were all wrestlers before they were playing on Sundays. I think that that's interesting. You don't see a ton of football players who were previously wrestlers, but when you do, I think it's something to point out.
And Lorenzo Neal on there as well. What a crew, man.
Right?
That's awesome.
How about it?
That's great stuff. Rachel, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is it's like starting to feel real, I think. For so long we've been in kind of the mode of like it's coming up, but like then all of a sudden being in camp and actually getting towards the end of our position previews, it's like, oh crap, this is coming. So I think end of August is going to be an exciting time for the entirety of Central New York and all college football fans, and I hope that it lives up to all of our expectations.
Awesome. Love it. Final thoughts for you, ma'am?
10-2, baby.
10-2?
I said it since the start of the year.
Sheesh. All right.
Don't forget it.
Don't forget
I
it.
said it months ago. 10-2 season.
10-2 Samantha Croston. Rachel Culver.
Isn't
Tommy
that how you're
Sladek.
supposed to drive, 10-2?
It is, yeah. I'm pretty good about that sometimes.
No, you're not.
I'm
You're
not.
totally a
I'm
one-handed
not.
driver.
No, I'm not a one-handed. I'll go like
Underhand?
I'll go 6 o'clock, like underhand.
Yeah, me
like,
too.
Right, but if that's if I'm like really like cruising. But like last night, the rain's pouring down. I was 10-2 for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Like those moments.
Oh, yeah. You're
warrants it.
hunched over the steering wheel at that point. It was scary out there last night.
It was crazy. It was nuts. That really stunk.
Especially when you only got one foot to work with.
How was your break, by the way? What was your rose and thorn? Then we'll get out of here.
My thorn was the fact that the third week I was off for 3 weeks. I thought more people would be excited for me about that, but like I was coming in and telling people in the building, and I was kind of getting some side eye. Like, I hate you for that. Anyway, my
I should
thorn.
have thought of that. Yeah.
My thorn was that the third week it mostly rained, so I couldn't be outside. My rose was Green Lake State Park. I don't know what happened. This happens to me sometimes where I get kind of obsessive about something. Green Lakes was that obsession. I must have went 5 times in 7 days. Couldn't stop. The kayaking, the people watching, the laying out. I love that place. I'm so in on Green Lakes. Who else? Put it in the comments. See you at Green Lakes.
All right, that's our show. We're out of here. We'll be back next week with special teams or secondary, one of the two. And yeah, it's going to be a big episode. Tune in. See ya. Peace.